Hey, well, before my chemtrail back in full force in Texas upload, I mirrored, let me make some noise, I mirrored a video called The Nuclear Hoax, and I hope that you have seen it, and I hope you have taken that to heart and understand that this so-called radiation from a nuclear detonation is not actually that dangerous. It is dangerous, of course, but it is only, when we listen to this guy, dangerous in its initial blast. As soon as it develops into an explosion, that initiate explosion, which would take part in 1/10 of a millionth of a second, meaning that when you look here, this is the Hiroshima bomb. This is the first and most primitive type of nuclear devices developed. Here we have the core of plutonium-239, or is it 237? It doesn't matter what it is, but we have the plutonium core here, and we got fast explosives, slow explosives, and what's happening here is that the explosion is going inwards towards the core, which is actually called an implosion. And all these explosive devices are hitting the core at the exact same time. This is some very, even at that time in 1945-44, when they were developing this weapon, is something that requires some exact science. It's not just you put this in there and then you put a ring around it and then you make some precision charges. No, this has to be pretty darn precise, because if one of these fast explosives is not traveling with the feet of seconds required to reach the core at the same time as the other ones, you would not get the yield, and you will have pretty much what you would call a misfire. And this bomb would be rendered inefficient. It would just explode, but it would not yield this vast amount of energy as intended. So all these spikes you see here are all traveling towards the core at the same speed, and in 1/10 of a million second, 10th of a million seconds, all the energy is released, meaning that this core is going into what is called, or what we would call in modern science, to a singularity. It will become so minute that you wouldn't even be able to see it in a microscope. And from there on, all this energy, because this pressure here from outside is no longer present, this energy that is pressed into a singularity is suddenly exploding outwards in 1/10 of a million seconds. It's so fast you cannot even believe it. And all that energy is released that fast. And that's something that we cannot relate to at all in any form or fashion. Now, here we got a type of effect in case, as Obama said a few years ago, that he was worried about a nuclear detonation in New York. Now, what's this little graph here? This is only an 800 kiloton. We're not talking megaton here. Megatons, we're talking millions. We're only talking about here 800,000 ton of TNT effect. But as you see here, the optimum detonation height of a nuclear device to make the maximum destruction underneath the detonation point is 1800 feet, or in metric terms 600 meters. When that occurs, everything within this area here, meaning this is New York, Manhattan, everything here will be completely obliterated. And I mean obliterated. There will be nothing left. Everybody in here, even if they're underground, will die from this detonation. And this is the bomb, and this is what I want you to pay attention to, and really pay attention to, is this is the nuclear device where the core of the detonation device was comprised of lithium-6 and lithium-7. And this is the Bikini detonation project, Operation Castle, what the heck was it? Castle something, it doesn't matter. But this was a 20 feet cylinder and 6 feet wide. In here we got a nuclear device. But look at this. These guys, remember that this device contained plutonium-237, a highly radioactive and very, very dangerous and the most toxic substance known to man, according to, you know who, the powers that be, those who makes the rules for the world. But these guys here is having this device, which is the first 100 kiloton nuclear device on Bikini Atoll in the Pacific Ocean. They're standing here in their shorts, no shirts, no protective gear of any kind. This cylinder is made of aluminum. The radiation inside here, according to, you know, nuclear physicists, is extreme. These guys, just by standing here, would be dead within an hour. If we follow, and that is if we follow the guidelines of what the powers that be has set for nuclear radiation. Remember the video, and you want, if you don't understand what I'm talking about now, you need, before you watch this to the end, you need to go watch the video about the nuclear hoax. I will put a link below so you can go watch it first. It's a lengthy program, but it will clearly explain some things to you. And this guy who is explaining this to you out there is one of the most prominent atomic physicists and nuclear bomb knowledgeable guy on the planet. And he's handling this material in his hands, and he's still living to tell the story. Meaning that the nuclear radiation agenda is a hoax. Chernobyl is frightening, even that we had, according to, you know, the news, the worst nuclear accident in modern day history, which we could then say that Fukushima is even worse because it's recent. And we are being told that these millions of gallons of water, cooling water, to cool down the core of reactor 3 at Fukushima, Japan, is spilling into the Pacific Ocean, the Northwest Pacific Ocean, and supposedly posing a big threat. Now, let me point something out to you. If plutonium-237 really is this bad, cesium 127, 137, something like that, the so-called MOX fuel that is used at Fukushima, is really that toxic. Let me let you in on something. Everybody in Japan will now suffer after this many years after it happened. It was in 2011. Everybody in Japan would suffer from radiation sickness, or should we say everybody in Japan would already be dead, because Japan's main food source is fish, sushi as an example. That's how they live. They fish, and they're fishing in the Pacific Ocean and South China Sea to provide food for their families. And millions of gallons of fuel, radioactive, contaminated water is spewing into the Pacific Ocean daily, according to the official reports. Meaning, not only would Japan be stricken from all kind of food in the ocean, because all fish would be dead, completely dead. And after this many years of March 11, 2011, after the tsunami that took out Daiichi power plant at Fukushima, Japan, I would say if the radiation problem, as the powers that be want it to be, as the guy is saying, that they suddenly changed the rules regarding radiation factors or levels that you are supposed to be exposed to. And it came out of nowhere, and he was handling this material in his bare hands without protective gear, and he's still alive today, handling plutonium-237 with his bare hands without any protection gear, swimming in the pool of cooling water for the power plants, even drinking the freaking water the plutonium-237 was embattled in. You get my point now. Now, we write in 2011, we write in 2018, almost 2019. We are now in November. We got 2 months left of this year, and in 2019. 2011 was the year of Fukushima. Now, if this radiation issue is really that of a concern, listen, this is hard for me to tell you, because if the problem really was this big regarding radiation, all life in the entire Pacific Ocean would now be dead. All life. Because millions of gallons of MOX fuel, contaminated radioactive water is spewing into Pacific Ocean, Northwest Pacific Ocean, being driven by the conveyor belt, meaning the ocean currents, around the entire Pacific Ocean. Everything will be dead. Anybody sailing out in this water would be now suffering and dying of radiation sickness. But is that really happening? No, it's not. And I can assure you with certainty that if plutonium-237 really is this lethal, which is the byproduct of uranium-235, no, 238, is that toxic, that lethal, I can assure you that the media, or the lamestream media, the lying, fake news, NBC, MSNBC, ABC, and all these channels, they would have no chance whatsoever to keep a lid on the fact that if plutonium-237, MOX fuel, cesium-120, what is it, 127? I can't freaking remember. It doesn't matter because it's all bullshit. Excuse my language, but I have to use this language. I don't like to cuss and stuff, but it is BS. These news channels would not be able to contain the fact that the entire Pacific Ocean is now dead, and the Atlantic Ocean is dying off, the Indian Ocean is dying off, all the fish in the oceans are now dead 7 years after the tragedy. That would not be able to be contained by any news media, because people would be dying in the streets from eating fish caught in the seas of radiation sickness. Do you understand now what I'm saying? It is all a lie regarding the radiation. But one thing that is not a lie is this. When this device goes off, if you're talking about an atomic bomb, we are talking about a temperature that is 5 times higher. That's the atomic bomb. 5 times higher than the surface temperature of the sun. Meaning we are talking about 15,000 Celsius degrees, which lands us around 25,000 Fahrenheit. And you can imagine that, yeah, that's pretty hot. You know, already here in Texas, when it's 100 degrees Fahrenheit outside in the summertime, people are, man, it's not nice. Then imagine 25,000. You would be grilled. You would be dead. You would be incinerated instantaneously. That fast. And the firestorm moving with a speed of 300 miles per hour, which will be around 500 kilometers an hour. You think you will live? I don't think so. Just look at this diagram. It pretty much illustrates it. This is Manhattan, and this is scale. Look at the fire. Look at the column and the fireball. And this fireball expands 7 miles in a second. From the detonation moment right there. In 1 second, this mushroom cloud, this mushroom thing up here in the top, is already expanded 7 miles in 1 second. And it says here 2 minutes after detonation, 250 to 300 miles per hour. We're talking almost 500 kilometers an hour. inward moving afterwinds from the sucking effects from the giant superheated rising fireball. I mean, if you're within this area of Manhattan with only an 800 kiloton nuclear bomb detonating, there will be no chance that you will live. You will be incinerated. If you're not incinerated, you will definitely die from third-degree burns. But there will be no fallout, because these guys here, they're still alive. And they're right next to a nuclear bomb, with the most deadliest plutonium, and they're still alive to tell the story. This is today's nuclear device. It's a secondary device. It has a primary fission trigger, and then it has a secondary fusion device, which means that the yield would be even greater. Oh, it's uranium-238. I said 237. Oh, excuse me. It doesn't matter. Plutonium-239, deuterium, tritium, gas, beryllium, chemical explosives, which is pretty much TNT. So this is a 2 states. This is from a MIRV, mid-range intercontinental re-entry vehicle, meaning a rocket shot into space, it falls in back to Earth, and then the warhead is released over its prime target. And this is a 2-state explosion. But still, we are not talking about radiation. We are talking about yield of explosion force and temperature. That's all. People that is exposed immediate to the blast would pretty much be vaporized, because there is an initial radiation coming from it which will literally vaporize you. Everything in this area you see here on the image here will be vaporized instantaneously. All of it gone. There'll be nothing left. But that's all. But the fallout idea is nothing but a hoax. And let me go over here and look here and read this to you. I got the picture from here. Russian intercontinental ballistic missiles are believed to carry a total of approximately 1,000 strategic nuclear warheads that can hit the United States less than 30 minutes after being launched. Of this total, about 700 warheads are rated at 800 kiloton. That is, each have an explosive power of over 800,000 tons of TNT. What follows is a description of the consequences of the detonation of a single such warhead over midtown Manhattan in the heart of New York City, as Obama was talking about. Wonder why he was saying that? Don't you? I do. Why the hell does he come up with such a thought? It's ridiculous. I wouldn't even think about it. But he did. Meaning he's telling you something. Okay, the initial fireball. The warhead will probably be detonated slightly more than a mile above the city to maximize the damage created by its blast wave. Within a few tenths of a millionth of a second of the detonation, the center of the warhead will reach temperature of roughly 200 million degrees Fahrenheit, about 100 million degrees Celsius, about 4 to 5 times the temperature of the center of the sun. That's hot. Do you understand why everything in Manhattan is gone? You know, vaporized? Everything. A ball of superheated air would form, initially expanded outwards at millions of miles per hour. It would act like a fast-moving piston on the surrounding air, compressing at the edge of the fireball and creating a shock wave of vast size and power. The larger the bomb, the greater the devastation. And the Russians, just in case they should decide to, launch an attack on us, which I find highly unlikely, they're not gonna drop an 800 kiloton bomb on us. They're gonna drop a SAR on us to make absolutely sure that everything within 50-mile radius is obliterated. They're not gonna drop a few small ones and tell us, hey, can you see what we are able to do, what we are capable of? No, they're not gonna do that. If they want to attack us, they're gonna obliterate us. So they're gonna drop the largest crap they can drop on us. Of course they will. That's just pure logic. If I wanted to attack my enemy, if I had an enemy, I would make sure that my enemy would not be able to respond to my attack. Meaning I would take them out instantaneously if I can. And we today have the weapons capable of doing these things. Back in the old days, well, the best weapon in close combat, and which actually did the best devastation against his enemy, was the Roman sword. Well, that's a 2 feet double-edged sword, but it was extremely efficient on close combat, where the long sword, broadsword, was not that efficient. But yet, seeing an enemy coming down like the Vikings with an 8 feet double-edged sword with horns on a helmet, clothed in sheepskin, charging you, you would pee your pants. But today we are living with the fact that we are having weapons that is able to create millions of degrees Celsius or 200 million Fahrenheit, incinerating everything within its path. After 1 second of the fireball would be roughly a mile in diameter, it would have cooled from initial temperature of many million degrees to about 16,000 degrees Fahrenheit, or roughly 40 or 4,000 degrees hotter than the surface on the sun. On a clear day, with average weather conditions, the enormous heat from light from the fireball will almost instantaneously ignite fires over a total area of about 100 square miles. Well, I'm in deep shit here. Excuse my language, I said. I'm not far from Fort Worth. Fort Worth, I almost said, is not really, a significant target. But there's a lot of people living in the Fort Worth area. And we happen to be having a Lockheed military installation sitting at Lake Worth, not far from downtown Fort Worth, where they are creating fighter planes, constructing them. I see them daily when I drive at work, doing their test runs with their new airplanes, fighter planes. See them all the time, flying over the sky, touch and go, touch and go, touch and go, all day long. That's what they do. That's out in Lake Worth. And I would say that's around 10 miles from downtown Fort Worth. That's a target. So maybe they will drop a very big one on Fort Worth to make sure that Lake Worth Air Force Base is completely annihilated, that nothing survives in this area. And I'm no more than 20 miles from downtown Fort Worth. So if it happened right now, me living in a, a mobile home made of wood, all of it pretty much, Well, I'll just have to say my prayers if I see the flash, because I won't make it. Not a chance. Because 4 seconds after the detonation, I'm already suffering 3 to 4 degree burns. My house windows is blown out. All the furniture in the home is instantaneously on fire. The wood, couple of seconds after that, would be engulfed in fire. And 3 to 4 seconds after the detonation, I will be hit by a 200 to 400 miles an hour wind blast, which will pretty much send me to the stars in ashes. I'm not in a good position. But this is not actually what I'm trying to tell you here. What I'm trying to tell you is that all these people that since World War II ended, and now we are counting over 2,500 above ground nuclear detonations, all these people involved in this quest for world dominance in weaponry would be now dead, long gone dead from radiation sickness, and the rest of the world would now also be dead from radioactive fallout. We're talking over 2,500 nuclear detonation above ground, people. This stuff, when this blows up, everything is turned into microscopical particulates, just like chemtrails, nanoparticulates. This stuff will be airborne for decades, and we will keep raining down on the ground. And if we're following the guidelines of the powers that be regarding radiation, according to the disaster in Chernobyl, no one would be able to enter the area of Chernobyl for the next 10,000 years without being dead. Just from going in there and getting out again, you would die a few weeks later of radiation sickness. But we see at Chernobyl that apple trees are thriving, wildlife is walking around there. They got tours with people there, and people never left, and they're still alive. How is that possible? If the nuclear radiation really is that bad, the fallout from a nuclear disaster or nuclear blast, how is that possible? It is not. And how is it possible that millions of gallons of cooling water that they're trying to cool off the core of Fukushima, reactor free, which is the problem? Why is there still fish in the oceans? If the radiation is really, really that bad, there would be no fish left in the oceans. And everybody living around the coastlines touching the water would now be dead because of the radiation, if it is really that bad. So you see where I'm getting with this. That is, the deal with a nuclear bomb is, it is devastating in every sense of the word, beyond imagination. If you see a mushroom cloud and you are far enough away to not even feel the shock wave, but just seeing that 10 to 20-mile high, 7 to 10-mile wide mushroom cloud rising above the ground. You mentally will be completely changed permanently. You will have PTSD, or what is it called? Post-traumatic stress disorder. There will be no question about that. Your life is ruined. So is all the lives of these people who has been involved with the development of these heinous weapons. Kisses, love. Sleep well. Love you. So, all of them, thousands of people who has been involved in this quest for creating weapons of absolute destruction. These people are today suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. They are not themselves anymore, but they were close to what was happening. They were downwind from the nuclear blast. They felt the shock wave hitting them, and they're still alive to tell the story. Why is that? That is because the notion of radioactive fallout is a lie. It is a scare tactic to keep us in line. And the worst thing of it all, in these days where this new technology of nuclear energy from 1945 and on was developed, the Americans gave, or pretty much voluntarily gave, their knowledge to the Russians, for crying out loud. Their enemy, for crying out loud. Do you see it now, that this is all a big scam? If you think that Russia is our enemy, you are dead wrong. They are all our enemies. America military-industrial complex, the Russian military-industrial complex, the Arab military-industrial complex, the Asian military-industrial complex are our enemies. They are the ones who want us dead, or at least our slaves, for their quest for their new world order. And if they want to build a new world order and keep people in slavery and bondage and a food stamping on a human face forever, which is their plans, there will be no such thing as using nuclear weapons with devastating nuclear fallout to enforce a new world order, because everybody of us would be dead, and we would already be dead because 2,500 nuclear devices have been detonated above surface of the ground in this world since we stopped doing it above ground. There will be no life left, no flesh saved, nothing left. Nothing. We will all be dead, dead, dead. Even the Rockefellers would be dead. The Rothschilds would be dead. The filthy Queen of England would be dead. Everybody will be dead. The freaking Pope Francis would be dead. That damn satanist pig would be dead. Obama would be dead. I would not even sit here and talk to you because my mom would be dead. And her mom would be dead. So she would never exist. The whole world would be dead. No. What the problem is here, and what we need to look upon, is these nuclear bombs are extremely devastating. They are creating so much heat, so much energy, so much wind, so much shockwave. It obliterates everything around it for miles in diameter. And if we are dropping enough of them, we can get rid of a lot of people in a very short time span, such as San Francisco, Los Angeles, Dallas, Texas, Denver, Colorado, Fort Worth, Texas. Do I need to go on? New York City, Indianapolis, Minneapolis, Milwaukee, Chicago. That's already 10 towns obliterated. We got Jacksonville, we got Miami, we got Tallahassee, we got Birmingham, Alabama, we got Baton Rouge, New Orleans. We 15 now. We got, I mean, do I need to keep on? Paris, France, Munich, Germany, Bonn, Germany, Berlin, Germany, Copenhagen, Denmark, my homeland, Stockholm, Sweden, Oslo, capital of Norway, Helsinki, capital of Finland, Budapest, capital of Hungary, and I think Czech Republic has the capital of Prague, Rome, Italy, Tel Aviv, Israel, Jerusalem, Israel, Mecca, Saudi Arabia, Tehran, Iran, Beijing, China, Seoul in South Korea, Tokyo, a city of 20 million people, Japan, all gone within a few minutes, all dead. So we are worrying about, well, that is a worry, but that's later. We're worrying about PlanetX. We're worrying about tsunamis, tidal waves, the roaring of the seas. Well, 80% of the world's populace is living at the coastlines around the world. So let's just say that we have this World War III, which we will have. It's already in the plans. All you need to look at is the conversations between Albert Pike, pesky, disgusting Freemason of United States of America, and I hope that George Washington had really given the consent of the Congress to go out and kill all these Illuminatis, all these Freemasons. But of course he did not get the consent for that, because all the people sitting in the bloody Congress are Freemasons. Do you think that they would allow a guy like George Washington to go out and kill off Albert Pike and all his pesky little followers, and then take a ship to travel to Italy to get a hold of the Illuminati leader called Mancini? No, Mancini and Albert Pike had a little conversation with each other, and it was devised to create 3 world wars that would usher in their leader, which would usher in that soldier's boot or military boot would stamp on a human face forever. That was their idea. It's always been their idea. Ever since Nimrod, the Tower of Babel, it has always been their idea of making everybody except themselves into slaves forever, and abolish God, our Father in heaven, forever, and usher in a satanic Luciferian reign across the entire globe. That has always been in the making, and you just don't understand it. Many of you that I'm speaking to, even though I know I don't get that many views anymore, apparently, according to YouTube, you understand what I'm talking about. You completely follow what I'm talking about. I'm not perfect in any form or fashion, but I'm seeing what's going on. And as my mom said to me when I was a child and when I was growing up, Henning, you cannot take the troubles of the world upon your shoulders. Well, I hold to disagree on that, because Yeshua HaMashiach, he took all the world's sins, meaning trouble, on his shoulders. And before he died, he said to his Father, "Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they are doing." And then he died and took all our sins with him, so that whoever believes in him, as in John 3:16, shall not perish, but shall have everlasting life. And that's something since I was in the age of 8 years old that I was introduced to, that I never talked to anybody about, that I never shared with anybody about until I've reached my age of 40 years old. And it suddenly dawned on me after meeting my sweet girl Elma, who is a stout Christian. And from her, what do you want to say, mellow heart, her calm mind, it dawned on me when she said to me, "Henning, I regret to tell you this, but this is the truth, that you and I and the rest of this planet are living in the end days. The days where everything will come to a reckoning." And somewhere in my heart, from the day that I was 8 years old, I knew exactly what she was talking about. And that is why I'm on YouTube. That is why I'm not standing down. This is why I'm standing on the wall, screaming as loud as I can, blowing my horn as loud as I can, because I see the enemy coming. So that the blood of the fallen ones in this conquest for a Luciferian order will not be on my hands. And if I am to stay silent, and not blow my horn, not telling you. The blood of my brothers and sisters will be on my hands. And that is something, when I die, I will not be able to live with. Knowing that I am in the know of what is going on. Not shouting, not screaming at the top of my lungs is going on. So that you out there, around the world, whoever is listening to my voice, have a chance to do what is needed to be done to make sure that you are saved, or at least make sure that you are able to defend yourself against the enemy who covertly and visibly is advancing on you and want to kill you. That's where I am. That is who I am. That's how I function. I can't save you. But I can tell you one thing. Christ is the only answer for you in whatever situation that you are in. Wherever you are in this world, Christ is the only answer for you. And by leading yourself to Christ, not by my help, but by your own help, by your own heart, that is what will give you eternal life. Because when all this is done, war, famine, even the jet stream will reverse and go the other way, which will destroy our growing seasons completely. And it will take 2 years at least for the farmers to pick up on when to sow and when to harvest, because everything is upside down. And in that time frame, millions and millions of people will die of starvation. 1/4 of the world's food produce comes from America. Imagine 1/4 of the world's produce certainly is not there. And it will not be there for the next 2 years at least. Millions of people will die of starvation, from pestilences, from disease. Oh, man, you cannot imagine that. You cannot fathom that in any form or fashion. Even if you pretend out there that you can understand what that means, you cannot. You cannot understand that, because you have never experienced it, so you cannot speak to it. And my dad always said to me, Henning, don't ever speak to something you do not know anything about, because that will make you look stupid and people will disrespect you. And he's absolutely right, and he's dead. He was right. He died in 1987, and he was a great loss for me, and I was devastated for a long time after he died, because I loved my dad so much, even though he was not my biological dad, but he was my dad. He took care of me. He took care of my mom, and he loved my mom endlessly. But he got colon cancer, and he was terminally ill. And yeah, He died in 1987 when I was a teenager. The worst thinkable moment in my life. He died. That was a hard time for me. I needed him, but he was no longer there. And there haven't been anybody since then that I could kind of call my father figure, which is something that is important to even a grown-up man, that is to have a father that you respect, one you listen to, because he's been around a little longer than you have. And he know a little more, and he got some good, nice, old-fashioned values that derives from these old Christian values before the state or before the church got separated in two, state and church. The old-fashioned way that, if a kid was unruly, well, dad or mom smacked his ass. I'm not talking abuse, but a good clap in the ass so you could feel it, that it was wrong what you were doing. And my dad also said to me, Henning, I'm only going to say this once, and don't let me repeat myself. Do not do this. And here's why. And when that was done, he expected me to listen to his advice, to not do so, because he knew what was right. And sometimes I was stupid enough, to test it out, and it did not work out too well. And there was, of course, a consequence of that, such as you grounded. Go to your room. Do not leave your room until you have an explanation to me for why you were going against my advice. And that made you think and taught you how to think. And you learned from that. And now today we are watching this completely, utterly stupid, ridiculous, immature, childish, infantile, millennia generation today, that you're telling them something that is really for their own good. And what do? They spit on you. They lift their middle finger to you and say, I don't give a flying F about what you're saying. I'm going to do exactly as I want. And look at them now. And they are to lead our world into the future. And we always been saying that our children are our future. I'm sorry. They're not. Because you parents from the 60s, you completely failed. And you did. You failed. Because you allowed the governments to dictate how to bring up your children. And now your children are unruly, disrespectful, worthless piece of ASSES. Pretty much. You love them, I know. But they are no contribution to a future world in any form or fashion. They are worthless. They are already brainwashed. And why are they brainwashed? because you parents, you allowed it. Therefore the meek shall inherit the earth, because there is no more smart people around. Because they're dead. And those millennials who think they're smart, they're also dead, because they cared not to listen to their wise parents and elderlies. So what is left? The meek. That's it. And when our nuclear war is over, our famine is over, and our pestilences and disease are over, our world will be rendered unrecognizable by earthquakes, by insane weather, by the roaring of the seas, the incoming of the fiery dragon or the destroyer and all its planets, burning and destroying, disfiguring, and completely render this planet like a hard disk without any information on it. That's what we're looking at. So what am I saying? What is my real purpose of what I'm saying? That is pretty much John 3:16. That's the only answer. The only answer. This world, if you take a snapshot of it now, looking from space, and when all this is over, all the things that has to take place, that has to be fulfilled before the coming of Christ, the second coming. And then you take a snapshot of when he has arrived and compare those two images of snapshots to each other, and you would not even recognize the planet that you were living on. All the islands shall disappear. All the mountains shall melt away. All the coastlines that you know about now would no longer exist. You would not recognize any landmass on this planet when it's all over. New land shall arise. Land shall disappear forever. My country, Denmark, will be forever gone. Most of Europe will be forever gone. The entire west coast of the United States of America will be forever gone. California is completely gone, non-existent. There's not even a remnant of it. The entire East Coast will be completely gone. Most of Africa will be gone. You would not recognize what you're looking at. You wouldn't know what's what. This whole planet, when all this has come to pass, will be completely and utterly transformed. You wouldn't know anything from looking outside what's what. Because this world will go to and fro like a drunkard. It will be removed like a cottage. It shall fall over and never rise again. That's where we are. We should not fear the nuclear war, which is only a war of extreme heat and extreme violent power. But there are no radioactive fallout. It is just an initial, instantaneous, extreme release of energy to kill as many people as possible, 1/3 of the entire world populace, which will be 2.5 billion people snuffed out by weaponry. 1/3 of the world's populace will die in the aftermath of famine, pestilence, disease, and cannibalism, and what else, and persecution of anybody who will not submit to this new leader that he called himself. And then there will be this arrival of these Anunnakis, as you want to call them, who you think, you idiots, are the ones who jump-started the life of this planet. They are the fallen angels. They are your enemy, and you need to kill them wherever you find them. Slaughter them. Cut them up in 1,000 pieces. Burn their freaking remains. The first coming of someone from outside this world, kill them. They are your enemy. Your enemy, and you cannot imagine how bad an enemy you are up against. Look upon the days of Noah. That's the enemy we're talking about. Oh man. And you think, stupidly enough, that the Anunnaki was the creator of mankind. If you believe in that, you want my honest opinion, you really deserve to fucking die. Excuse my language. You deserve to die because you're an idiot. You're completely stupid. I mean, you are no value to this world if you believe that the Anunnaki is the creator of this planet. They came down here and saw some monkeys, and then they did some engineering on them, and then they created humanity. How stupid can you be? God created us in His image, and He made you all powerful and with a sound mind. And you should know better. Just like Obi-Wan Kenobi is saying to Luke, right? Let the Force guide you. What is the Force? God Almighty, our Father in heaven. He is your Force. No one else. And who is your Savior? His Son, Yeshua HaMashiach, who came here in flesh and blood to save you. That's how simple it is. And it doesn't have to require a whole lot of word and explanation. Search your heart. Search it deeply. close your eyes and leave out your iPhone and the buzzing world and sit down in complete silence. Close your eyes and let God speak to you. I guarantee you, if you do that, shut off your phone, shut off your TV, shut off everything, and just you and only you. And being in that silence where you can hear the blood rushing through your ears, that the silence almost becomes noise. That is when you can hear God speak to you. That is when you know what I'm saying to you is true. That what Yeshua HaMashiach said to you back then, and still saying to you, is the only truth and the only way. I guarantee you, if you let go, if you really let go, He will talk to you. Think about 2 plus 2 is 4. Think about who you are, all powerful and with a sound mind, created in our Father in heaven's image. That's where we are. All of us. We are all God's children. I hope you understand that. Of course, nuclear war is not a nice thing to think about. But it is what is coming. Because that's the only way that we can kill off 1/3 of the populace of this planet and create fear and make us submit to the peacemaker, because the whole world will marvel after the beast, and who is able to make war against him, because he's all powerful. That's what he wants you to think he is. He got no power whatsoever. All he has is soldiers to do his bidding. So if you're not following suit with his ideas, well, they are equipped to kill you. But the big question is, where do you go when you lose your life? That's really the big question. That's why I'm saying sit down and let the world go. And let the noise of the bloodstream in your ears fill your ears. And then ask yourself this question. Who do I really belong to? Who am I? And what is my purpose? I guarantee you, if you ask our Father in heaven that question, you will be granted that answer in your worst time of trouble. But can you let go? That's a really big challenge. Can you let go of all these worldly things? Can you? Because I can assure you one thing. When you die, you're not going to take your iPhone with you. You're not going to take your gold rings with you, your gold necklaces with you. You ain't going to take anything at all with you. because that is only earthly possessions, and they will not follow you when you die. What you need to worry about, where is your soul going? That light being that you are, because that's what you are, a light being. And that might sound new age to you, but that's exactly not the fact. That is what Satan's little work is coming in. All your new ages, with all your light and all your crap and with all your crystals and all your BS, you're going to burn in hell for that. Because you bought into Satan's lies that this crystal is going to do this for you and this crystal is going to do that for you. Ain't going to do a damn thing for you. It's a bloody freaking rock of earth. Idiots. And all your, oh, namaste. Like we have a YouTuber, I'm pretty upset with him sometimes, because he's not bringing anything to the table that I can't go find anywhere else on the channel, on the internet. All he's doing is reporting of stuff that is already news on the internet, and he's making money on that. He's not coming with anything of his own heart. All he's doing is reporting, and you are doing your Patreon voluntarily submission of money to give him free coffee and make sure that he can live a life without having to go to work, living off your benefits that you're giving him. First name of his channel is Evolutionary. The rest you can freaking figure out for yourself. So now let me tell you something. A guy who is not willing to work, meaning using his hand to work, is worse than a man with no faith. And that is exactly what the New Ages are. They're worthless because they bought into the Luciferian lie that you're some kind of, oh, spiritual being. Yeah, you are, but that don't freaking come from crystals and just saying namaste. It comes from God Almighty, our Father in heaven, from Yeshua HaMashiach. That's where it comes from. And these people cannot use their names, because if they use their names, they will lose their entire subscription or subscribers on YouTube. They will be gone forever. That is the great apostasy. But I don't care. I'm not going to go down that road where I'm going to say, oh, how am I going to get as many views as I possibly can? Oh, I know how to do that. I'm just going to pretend I'm a New Ager and I believe in crystals and I believe that our sun is something special. It has some magical power. So does our moon. Sorry. You're all wrong. And having that belief, you got a one-way ticket to eternal darkness and separation from our Father in heaven. But that's the problem on YouTube. There's all these people out there who wants to promote this New Age stuff. And we got another one who's a big shot on YouTube too. I'm not going to mention his name, but maybe you can circle yourself in to understand who he is. He's a guy who is super popular here. I've done listening to him because he's taking all kinds of crap up that I don't want to listen to, especially when it comes to Anunnaki. He calls himself an agnostic. He might as well call himself a freaking New Ager. It doesn't matter. He is on the wrong side of the turf. I don't care who he's got on his live shows. I don't care who he is and where he comes from. At any point in time, I can destroy him by the knowledge that I have, which is the truth. He don't have the truth. He don't want the truth. He wants views and Patreon. So there's two people here on YouTube that are really, really despised now for what they're doing. They're not dragging people to Christ. Actually, they're leading them away from Christ. And that I really, really not like. I don't like that at all. So that's why I'm at. You know what we are looking at? Wall. Coming. When? Can't exactly say, but it's not far away. And pestilences, disease, and famine. The Antichrist and his reign for a while. 1200 and something days. Then he will be thrown down, and the wrath of our Lord will be upon us, hurling in PlanetX, turning the world upside down, burning it to crisp, melting all the islands, all the mountains, and all the islands will disappear. There are so many things that is coming to us. And then, according to scriptures, according to Revelation, that even when all these things takes place, people will still deny Christ. They will still not take his name in their mouth and utter it and ask for forgiveness. They refuse to, because they have already been breastfed with all the lies from the New Agers and all the other wolves in sheep's clothes. And there are many of them on YouTube today, and they are having a shitload, excuse my language, of views and subscribers. And me and you who speaks the truth and know the truth, we are being suppressed. We're being put in their algorithms on the tyrannical Google, so that our voices are not lifted up and heard by many. Yeah, that's how it is. That's how Satan works. You speak about Christ, you're not gonna get hurt. You speak about BS, crystals, and the sun is our sort of God. man, you're gonna have a horde of subscribers following you. And you don't even have to work anymore, because all you need to do is make a Patreon account, and people can put money in and give you free coffee and BS. That's where we are on YouTube today, and that's where the world is in general today. Yep, that's where we are. And you know what? I don't really care anymore. I'm still gonna produce my videos. I'm still gonna speak my mind. YouTube, Google, they can't shut me off from the truth. I'm gonna utter it, no matter what. And any death threats, I'm just gonna speak louder and louder and louder. That's where I am. I'm willing to die for my Christ. Are you?